Hi, friend. I just want you to know today that you are good enough. You don't need to do any more than you're already doing to be good. You are good enough. You know, probably our greatest critics for most of us are ourselves. Yeah, there's lots of haters out there. There's lots of people that, you know, want to put us down, want to criticise us. But at the end of the day, we do more than a good job ourselves of criticising ourselves. I was thinking this week about the fact that the whole of creation, nature, the plants, the trees, birds, the insects, everything, they just live their lives. They just carry on in the way that they're created to do so. And we all know, right, that the most destructive creature on the planet is the human being. We're the ones that cause mayhem and destruction. We're the ones that basically are destroying the planet. And we like to kill one another. You know, we like to cause just generally a lot of mayhem in this world. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself the question, if you stopped trying to be something, what would you actually be? This is one of the big questions that poses itself when we start to meditate. Because when we meditate, we're able to see things more clearly the way they actually are. I was watching a bee earlier on, and it was just flying through the meadow from one clover flower to the next, and it was going so quickly. And I think at one time I would have thought to myself, that's kind of like slave labor, really. That bee working for the good of the hive. You know, they're kind of, you might say they're sort of worked to death, really, bees. But the truth is that the bee was just doing what the bee does. The bee was just being a bee. There you go, being a bee. And don't you ever wonder, if we just stopped trying to be something, what we would actually be? Well, just maybe, I'm throwing this out here to you, just maybe, if you stop trying to be something, you could just be yourself. You know what? I am a human being, and so are you. And when you start to get deeper into meditation, you start to realize that all of the unnecessary things that we strive for in this life, we can just leave them by the wayside. Because when we get into that place of silence, when we get into the place where we're no longer having to constantly be dictated to by our thoughts, we're no longer having to listen to that constant drip, drip, drip in our heads all the time, we realise that there's a beautiful calmness, a beautiful peace to be found. Obviously, there's a lot more to meditation than that. And to be honest, we discover a lot more about ourselves. We discover the fact that we are consciousness. We're not our thoughts. We have thoughts, they come into our minds, and we have no control over those thoughts at all, other than what we decide to do with those thoughts. But let me ask you, where do the thoughts come from? They just pop into our heads, And this is the time that we really become aware of the fact that we don't control our thoughts, from where they come from and what the thoughts are going to be, is when we are in that quiet time, just us, in the solitude, in the silence. We sit, we close our eyes to meditate, and in that time we realise that we can be aware of the thoughts, but we are not the thoughts. What do I mean? Well, you can observe something that's outside of yourself. I can look, I can observe a tree. Am I the tree? No, I'm not the tree. I can see the sky, I can see the clouds. Were I that object, then I couldn't be the subject that was viewing it. So when I'm in meditation, obviously I can't be the object. I am the subject. I am the person that's looking at the thoughts and seeing them. So to be the observer makes you realise that you have an infinitely much better control over yourself, but at the same time we have almost no control over the circumstances that are going on around us, really. Just being is really all about being able to accept that we are alive, and just being alive is a fantastic revelation to come to. Do you ever just sit and think, I'm alive, I'm here I am? And it's what observation's about. It's about what awareness is about, is being aware of things around us. It might sound like a ridiculous thing to say, and such a simple concept that why would I even say we need to be aware of things? You know, a lot of people don't get mindfulness, what it's about. It's basically recognizing that we are the observers. We're going through life, we're observing things. And when you realize that if you stop trying to do something, to be somebody, it's incredibly freeing. You won't cease to exist because you stop trying to be somebody or something. I don't care if you're a doctor, policeman, you know, the best mother in the world. You could be the Prime Minister, the President. If you stop trying to be what you are, that thing, that concept of a person, you don't stop existing, you don't cease to be, because you are far much more than that. There's so much pressure put on us today, you know, by social media and you know, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of these different things. There's so much pressure, and I know people probably just talk this subject to death. But when you realise that you don't have to be anything at all, you can just be yourself, it is incredibly freeing. I mean, you could try to be a really good person, a really kind person, a really truthful person, anything that you perceive to be good. A religious person, maybe, spiritual person. Doesn't really matter. You could try to be the most loving person in the world. you could try to do that, but it won't actually change the fact that you are who you are. And whoever you are, whatever you are, you can rest in that fact. You don't have to keep striving anymore to be something. I love to just come outside in nature and just sit and just observe wildlife, the plants, the sky. It's simply not trying. And I think if a dog or a cat stops to think for a moment, am I a cat? Am I a dog? What am I supposed to be doing? What's my job? What's my role? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? They too would miss the whole point about what they are. They just need to just be whatever it is that they are. And I know this probably just seems such a really almost ridiculous topic for a video, but so many of you, and myself I can include in this, have spent so much time in our lives trying to aim to be somewhere, to get somewhere, to go towards a goal in life. Our whole worth, our whole value in life is measured by our achievements, our successes, what we've done, who we are, what we've become, what's our job, what's our role in the family, what's our role as a neighbour, you name it. There are so many parameters that we can measure ourselves against, but the point is all of that just leads us to pressure and ultimately leads us to suffering, because there's always going to be somebody better at doing what you do. There's always going to be somebody more important than the role that you think you've achieved. There's always going to be a higher status. And you know what? You can have all the money in the world. You can have all the toys. You can have all the possessions. But ultimately, it doesn't actually change who you are. And neither should it change who you are. Because you are good enough as you are. You're already worthy enough to live on this planet. Just as worthy as the trees or the birds or the insects. And you're on this earth to observe, to remember the fact that we have a connection to the universe, to remember the fact that we are part of one big universal consciousness. We might just be a little part in that, just like that bee was just one bee in a colony of bees, you know. But that doesn't matter, because that bee is a bee, and it's as much of a bee as any other bee is, and it's as much a being as you or I. So I think what I wanted to say really to you today was, we just need to get into the place in our heads, in our hearts, where we actually realise we don't need to do the most basic thing. We don't need to become anything. When you can just rest in the fact of who you are, what you are, accept yourself, love yourself for who you are, then everything else will naturally flow from it. It's like if you fall in the river, if you don't do anything, the current of the river will just sweep you along down the river. You could swim against the current, yeah, sure. It's hard work. And unless you're a very strong swimmer, eventually you'll tire and the current will then, at some point, carry you back downstream again. And life's a lot like that. If you can allow yourself to just move with life's flow, not fight against it, because by trying to be somebody, by trying to achieve something, to get to some goal, in order to prove your worth, I'm not talking about if it's something that's really something that you love to do, because what we love to do basically flows out from our hearts. What I'm talking about is, what's the point? What's the point of doing something that you don't like doing just because you feel that you should be doing it, that you need to achieve something, that you need to be somewhere in life? You've got to get to some particular career goal. You've got to have so many possessions. You've got to have so much money in the bank. It's all pointless, really. I just urge you, whoever you are, whatever you are, just trust me. Be yourself. Accept that you are who you are, and accept that life and the universe will help you to basically live your life if you go along with it. In the same way that the seasons don't worry, they just come and they go. A little bee might only live for a short time, and it might seem like that bee is overworked, overstressed, over anxious, but it's not like that at all, because time is a constraint, that it's a fictitious invention of the human brain. To a tree that lives hundreds of years, our lifespan might just seem that much. To an insect that only lives a day or two, our lifespan seems huge. So time is relative. But what are you going to do with your time on this earth? Are you going to spend it worrying and stressing about the fact that you need to achieve something, you need to get somewhere, you need to be someone, or are you just going to enjoy the ride? That's what I want you to do. I just want you to enjoy the ride, enjoy the trip. And maybe I'll see you again along the way. But for now, take it easy. Don't stress. Don't try too hard. Just allow yourself to be carried along by life's flow. Namaskaram.